The room went still as a photograph snapped in time. My wife's kiss on my brother, witnessed from the exact seat I occupied, and the silence that followed felt heavier than any shout I'd ever heard. The clock on the wall seemed to blink, granting the crowd a mercy they refused to accept. We sat among relatives and friends at a family dinner that promised nothing more than banal stories and light laughter. I noticed the quick glances, the sideways smiles, and a tremor in my own hands as I caught the corner of my eye. The kiss I never wanted to see, pressed like a damp stone into the moment. The air between us tautened, and I realized the evening would bend toward a truth I hadn't prepared to face. Embarrassment can masquerade as 1,000 tiny questions. People whispered before the thought fully formed in their minds. What did this mean for us, for him, for the family's future? I kept my breaths even, counting to 10 as if that would steady the tremor in my chest. My wife's gaze jittered between guilt and apology, as if she might suddenly vanish into the wallpaper. I stayed still, not out of strength but out of a stubborn insistence to witness the moment without letting it become a spectacle. Silence is a stage, and everyone on it waits for the lead to improvise. The room's chatter slowed to a whispering current. Forks paused in midair, glasses held in a careful, almost ceremonial stillness. I mapped the room with a quiet devotion, the aunt's nervous laughter, the cousin's forced calm, my brother's pale tension. In that pause, I felt a choice coalesce, a choice not about blame, but about how truth would be spoken, privately and publicly, and how a family could endure a revelation without erasing its past. Truth doesn't have a loud entrance. It arrives dressed in palpable consequence. I found my voice not at the top of a rant, but at the level of a confession, measured and precise. I spoke of hurt I hadn't anticipated feeling, of boundaries that needed redefining, and of a future that would require patient repair. The kiss wasn't a single act, but a ripple that stretched across the room, challenging every relationship in the room to redefine what loyalty, love, and accountability actually look like in the light of a difficult truth. Forgiveness often arrives as a choice, not a feeling. The couple at the center of the moment flinched under the weight of judgment, while others looked away, weighing the cost of their own assumptions. My wife, eyes glistening with unshed tears, whispered a fragile apology that seemed to echo louder than any spoken sentence. I replied with a vow to guard the truth, to seek healing, and to argue for a path that could hold both the hurt and the possibility of renewal, even if that path meant walking it slowly. Rebuilding starts where the room's noise finally surrenders to gravity. Conversations drifted from shock toward questions about what comes next. Would we redefine our marriage, set new boundaries, or pursue separate ways? I acknowledged that the immediate future would be a test of patience and conversation, not a verdict. The room's energy shifted from judgment to cautious curiosity, as if the family wanted to believe in something larger than the incident, something that could contain the pain, missteps, and the stubborn seed of hope. Every scar tells a story if you choose to listen. As the night wore on, we spoke in fragments, about needs unmet, about the boundaries we'd previously ignored, about the fragility of trust. My brother's silence spoke volumes more than any words could, a painful acknowledgement of what his proximity to a breach had done to the family structure. We didn't erase the hurt. We began to name it, to understand its contours, and to decide, with intention, how to move forward with care and honesty. The hardest conversations require courage where you least expect it. We moved to a quieter room, far from the clatter of dishes and the laughter that kept trying to surface. There, we mapped possible futures, therapy to mend what's broken, new agreements to protect vulnerable boundaries, and a renewed commitment to open, ongoing dialogue. The act that seemed to end a bond could, with time and effort, become the hinge that allows a different kind of closeness to form, one built on transparency and mutual respect. The night's final glow doesn't erase a night's thunder. It guides tomorrow's steps. When we finally returned to the dining room, the furniture's familiar lines no longer carried the same weight. People spoke softly, almost tiptoeing around the topic, as if reverence for truth required a gentler touch. We didn't pretend the night hadn't happened. We acknowledged it and chose to treat it as a catalyst, rather than a conclusion. The road ahead would demand work, but it could lead to a stronger, more honest version of our family, if honesty is the compass. Healing is the journey's map. The meal ended, but the night's thread continued into conversations, texts, and long, late-night talks. We learned to listen without defensiveness, to ask for boundaries without resentment, and to forgive not as a forgetting, but as a commitment to a future that could include both pain and growth. The room's silence after the reveal was not a verdict. It was an invitation to redefine what family means when trust is both fragile and resilient.